Welcome to the next in our series of interviews with Chief Digital Officers. And I'm delighted to say today that we have with us David Walmsley, Chief Digital Officer of Pandora, the global jewelry retailer. So what we really wanted to kick off with was that very start point. You know, what has the impact of COVID-19 been on your business so far?
You know, I came in, as you said, last year. The business was pretty immature from a digital perspective, which is kind of why they needed me to build a team. But, you know, we've been on a journey for the past 18 months, really turbocharging e-commerce, but also kickstarting the Omnichannel approach and the Omnichannel program. And timing is everything. You know, thank goodness we've got that mobilized and got that moving, because coming into 2020, we had a re-energized e-commerce business, a re-energized performance in e-commerce. And with COVID hitting, it's like I said, you know, it's not just riding the bucking bronco that is a pure play global business suddenly overnight, but keeping the logistics piece, keeping customer services moving, this massive increase in volume, which all of us as retailers are having to deal with in the e-commerce space. But I think the softer piece is then shifting the mindsets within the business. You know, that part of the job that all chief digital officers have is helping their leadership team that they're a part of reorient their minds around omnichannel and the digital customer experience and all the touch points. And that piece has been turbocharged as well.
It seems to me there's a big focus on people and culture, and you know, in two ways. Firstly, really kind of building up the confidence and muscle of the e-commerce teams, but I guess their role within an essentially sort of legacy retail business. Can you talk a little bit about that journey, that cultural transformation?
You know, last year we developed a plan to centralize global digital developments in Copenhagen, and we actually kicked off at the back end of last year a big drive to create what we're calling the digital hub in Copenhagen, which is a 100 headcount team consisting of engineers, product management, user experience, data scientists. So with that globalization of digital and that really ramping up of in-house resource has been what was a central part of my strategy and remains a central part of our strategy. But alongside that, we also reorganized around how we worked with the e-commerce teams in each of the countries. We have e-commerce running in 14 different countries. We reorganized how we are working, both from a people perspective, but also from the tools we're putting in their hands, and putting in place a core operating model for e-commerce that everyone has a very similar looking week now in terms of what they're doing through the week to drive that e-commerce performance and the optimization of the e-commerce performance in particular.
What you seem to be saying here is that the crisis is leading to a reprioritization in the business, an operational reprioritization. And I guess, does that also mean ultimately reprioritization of investment?
The reprioritization of the operational focus, first of all, simply more capacity, you know, more DC, more customer service capacity, working with our partners. In the middle of this, we just launched an entire new global customer service platform because we're kicking around wondering what to do. It's been a program that's been running for a number of months, but that went live a couple of weeks ago. And that for the first time gives us insight into all the customer service streams. So again, moving from this world where we're renting someone else's machine to owning our own machine has been a fundamental change in our operational approach. That's been a long time coming, and we just got to that in the last couple of weeks. In fact, we launched the last part of it, the UK order management platform, just at the beginning of this week. So it's a very, very current kind of upgrading of our operational capability. I think one thing that a lot of people in my position sometimes struggle with is your commercial teams tend to kind of underestimate because they want to overperform. That is anathema in our business right now. You know, no one wins any prizes for beating a target, because if they do, it means we might not have the operational capacity to support it. So that mindset shift, that raw commerciality, which is don't underpromise and overachieve, that's pretty fatal in this environment, you know. And that's something we're continually coaching people on. You know, it's like praising people for underachieving on their forecast. You know, hopefully just by a bit, you know. But that's the real driver there. And you know, the commercial performance on e-com, and again, people in chief digital roles or e-commerce roles that are watching this, we're all in a position where we're kind of, riding a bucking bronco, as I said at the start, in terms of e-commerce performance. And it's great, because you're looking at numbers, thinking, my goodness, how this is suddenly a massive business. But we are in many ways, our goal at the moment is simply to keep it running, and that means it's all about the operational side of things. So that's one piece. In terms of reprioritization, yes, we've reprioritized around two things. One thing is I'd call conversion bankers. So there's lots of things. There are no bad ideas typically in terms of digital backlogs. They're all good ideas. They're all somehow going to generate sales, but there's complexity with some of them. There's question marks over actual commercial performance of a particular function and feature. We've put in place a big testing program so that no feature goes live on Pandora.net now without it having been tested in at least one country via our A/B testing platform. So we've gone from a world of just like ideation and let's get this stuff done to a much more rigorous test and optimization approach. So the conversion bankers is the first piece that we've just really streamlined down to a list of particularly stuff with optimization of checkouts and optimization of navigation and so on. So none of the kind of bells and whistles things. And the second piece is then the Omnichannel program, which is we've started in the US last year, and that's been heavily expedited. We rolled out Click and Collect, Tmall Click and Collect in China. We've got a couple of other Omnichannel features going live with Tmall, so endless aisle. So if a store can't fulfill the order, then we can now sell off Tmall in the store off devices. And all of that program rolling out US, China, and now into Europe. Now we've got the order management systems in place to support that. So that reprioritization has been a critical part of this year because we have to support that Q4 store performance. That's where Pandora lives. And then your last question, investments. I think there's certainly been a reprioritization of investment, and one of the things that is always front of mind for me is that the investment in digital, now that we're chasing this business, the cash investment in digital will continue to grow, but we have to do that in an efficient manner. And that's one thing that's always front of mind for me, because particularly in these kind of challenged times, I think within any organization, people can look at the digital team and think, geez, they're getting all the money, and it's not always the case when you get down to the actuality of it, but the perception can be there. So it's incumbent on me and my team to make the most efficient use of that money and be transparent in how we're driving the efficiency in that investment. So that's something that, again, we've doubled down on in the last couple of months in terms of how we talk about our investment and, frankly, the cost savings within there. So working with our partners to really drive better commerciality in terms of the money we are investing. So I think that's really the focus at the moment, rather than kind of raw money. Although I would say from an operational point of view, the expansion of our operations has been a very straightforward conversation.
What do you think are going to be the lasting changes that emerge from this?
We've all experienced a very different 2020 to the one maybe we were individually planning as families. So I hate the phrase new normal, but that shift in consumer want and need, I think, is critical. We have to respond to how our customers want to shop, and then find the most efficient way, the best way to do that. But the starting point has to be, how do our customers want to shop? And with Pandora, the experience that our customers have in store is a big part of the Pandora experience. Because it's when you're putting together one of our bracelets with some charms, you're thinking about buying a present, the expertise you can get in store and the advice and the comfort that you're buying the right combination of things, I think that's the real secret sauce in our business. And that's something that, from a digital perspective, we have to find ways of supporting. We have to find ways of helping our customers research and browse and build their ideas online so they can then shorten their visit into store. One of the things we found in the last few months, and we've been doing a lot of research in the background on the omnichannel shopping experience, how people move between the channels, and particularly that face-to-face confidence of, like, is this for male gifters in particular? Funnily enough, is this the right thing? Does this look good? And that confidence to push the purchase across the line, I think, is something that's always going to be part of our business. But that said, the share of business, sort of boring economics, the share of business that will be transacted through our e-commerce tills has increased through COVID, and I don't expect it to go back to the pre-COVID level. And that's a change in terms of, or it's a speeding up of the economics in any consumer-facing business at the moment. We've got long-range plans and long-range models about channel shift and so on. So the models have always been in place. It's now a question of just basically changing some of the years across the bottom of some of these graphs.
That's an external sort of customer view. What about, internally? Do you think there'll be what will be the lasting changes from COVID-19 from an internal perspective?
I'd come back to the question about the country teams in each of our countries and the management team and the management ethic there. That they've grown up as commercial arms in each country. Why do we have a Pandora presence in each country? Well, we have stores in each country, so we need a management team to manage the plan, buy, move, sell. That whole kind of operating model in terms of the commercial arm. E-commerce grew out of that. Well, you now have a website, so here's a little team. But actually, that integration and that omnichannel management mindset, I think, is the big shift that we'll see coming out of this. That's something we're doing a lot of work on.
If you look at the sort of top level of Pandora leadership, well, what will be their view of digital transformation going forward?
I'm blessed with a boss who is intensely curious, and he comes from an FMCG background, so might not be too au fait with digital channels in terms of trading through digital channels and omnichannel, but he asks all the questions and he leads from the front in terms of encouraging the team to ask the questions as well. I think one of the things that really excites me individually is, and Grant, as chief digital officers in these businesses, sometimes a chief exec can say, digital is important to me, and that's why I've hired him or her. And that's kind of okay. It gives people like us jobs, but it's not really great from the organizational point of view. And in Pandora, under Alexander's leadership, he's very clear. It's everyone around the table. What is your digital agenda? And my job with them is to help them uncover and unpack what their digital agenda is and support them and celebrate the things that their teams are already doing that look like digital and really work with them on what each digital agenda should look like.
You're a very experienced digital leader. As a result of this particular moment in time, have you learned anything new, particularly about leadership of a digital organization in a crisis?
I think in this current phase with the pandemic, the day-to-day operational pieces it's exciting. I get a kick out of that and energized by the operational challenges. Thankfully, we'd actually built the team up by the time this had started to hit. So I had some really great experienced operators, a couple of guys I brought with me from previous places, and a really sort of diverse cross-section of people from many parts of the world, in fact, that we brought into the team. So thankfully, we had the team, we'd built the team by this point. So that day-to-day operational piece I find very energizing. But I think the journey I've been on and I remain on at the moment is moving from a world where, and like I said, I've been doing this for a reasonably long time, from a world where I was me and my team were the only people doing this stuff and we were seen as like the weirdos in the corner slightly, to a space where everyone has a part of this now. And I think the personal challenge for me, which I'm keep front of mind all the time, is then empowering and celebrating the digital successes in other parts of the business. And I think, being really frank about it, sometimes you think, well, why are they doing that? That feels like our job. And that kind of big business kind of like sometimes that anxiety that comes about, who's doing what that looks like my job? And actually, I think the journey I've been on is relaxing around that stuff and celebrating it and saying, well, how can I help?